Hey, today is a day in the United States. And I will be, tomorrow, I will try to think about things like community and hope and all of that. Because obviously the fight doesn't stop, etc., etc. Today, I am allowing myself to be in my sadness and in my rage. And last night, as my wife and I were trying to keep it together during all the results coming in or whatever, we were watching movies, we were doing other stuff. I couldn't help at certain points trying to do a little math earlier in the returns to figure out electoral votes. But I was writing in my journal as it got later in the evening, and I wanted to share that with you because it basically captures everything I'm feeling right now. And rather than ramble, I'm just going to read what I wrote. So this is from my journal from last night. There's really nothing more important to be writing about right now than the impending fall of our democracy, which wasn't necessarily doing great to begin with. Right now, at this very moment, Trump has 247 electoral votes to Harris's 210. With the states that are left to call, things aren't looking good math-wise for Harris. And the thing that is making my stomach turn right now is, and then this is in all caps, how can so many people actively go out and vote for Trump a second time? How? I understand, quote, not voting. Well, I don't, but I'll get to that. But so many, too many people have turned out to vote for that, for him, for white supremacy, for sexism, for homophobia, for transphobia. So many people have actively turned out saying they're for those things. And I'm not naive. I'm not saying that a Harris presidency or any Democratic presidency would have solved all the problems that need solving. But my God, that so many people put their stamp of approval on that man, that so many people looked at a competent, intelligent Black and Asian woman and said, nah, I'd rather go with this guy who can't string two words together that make any sense. That's the guy who should make decisions about our Supreme Court, or what wars we enter into, or what any of us should do with our bodies, be we cis women or trans women, or trans people. The thing that really nauseates me is that not one of these people, these millions of my fellow citizens, really cares all that much about any of that. Because their fear of whatever they think a Harris presidency represents is bigger than their fear of what happens to the personal rights and freedoms of more than half of the people in this country. More than half. Because the freedoms of all women, cis and trans, are in further jeopardy. The freedoms of all people of color are in jeopardy. The freedoms of all queer people are in jeopardy. Trans people are in jeopardy. The lives of disabled people are in jeopardy. Trump as president only benefits a small percentage of Americans and causes active harm to the majority of us. And yet, some of us who are in those groups that I mentioned, I'm looking at you, white women, are more concerned with maintaining your proximity to power than in trying to exercise any of your own. And I find that infuriating. It makes me sick, and it makes me sad that so many, quote, fellow Americans don't care if people like me live or die, if people like my wife live or die. And I haven't looked into voter turnout yet, but I know I've heard talk in progressive circles of either not voting at all or actively voting against Harris because of Gaza. If that's true, if that's a part of this bleak picture, that hurts even more. Because what those people are saying is that their protest is worth more than our lives too. Not that the lives of Palestinians are worth more, because too many of them have been lost already, along with Israeli lives, but that their protest vote, or protest abstention, whatever, is worth more than my life, than our lives. And it makes me sick to know that so many people on, quote, my side of the political spectrum would throw more than half of the people of this country under the bus so they can feel like they're making a point. Meanwhile, of course, Trump will buddy up with Netanyahu and make a show of, quote, ending the war, a war that has already razed Gaza to the ground. And they will buddy up and continue two far-right regimes. And, quote, protest voters will have played right into that. But honestly, I'm more nauseated by those who voted for Trump outright. You voted for a felon. You voted for a rapist. You voted for a racist. You voted for a man who couldn't give less of a shit about you. You did that willingly, and you did it at all of our expense. Because the already turning tide of a loss of rights across the country wasn't scary enough for you. Or maybe you want it all to burn because that's the only way you see to changing the system. But burning it all down without a plan to replace it is a folly. And you're using the lives of very real people, including your own, as a thought experiment. To the rest of us, to those of us who tried to act with reason and love, who tried to mitigate harm even as we fought against the worst elements of our government, we still have each other, and we still hold each other. The world has seen fascism, and the world has seen fascism collapse. The world has seen rights taken away and rights regained. And right now, I'm trying to take some comfort in the words of Octavia Butler, or rather, the words of Lauren Olamina in Parable of the Sower. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. We're going through a big change, but it will all change again, because we will touch it. We will change it. And right now, that's the thing I have to hang on to with everything I have as I try not to be immediately gutted by the fact that over half of America is willing to trade their lives and well-being so they don't have to vote for a brown-skinned woman.